Hello and welcome back to Mass Mutation Month. Last video we took a look at all the new Shadows cards in Mass Mutation, and today we're going to be diving into the new cards from Star Alliance. Once again, there will be spoilers, so please stop watching now if you don't want any of the new cards spoiled. For the rest of us, let's begin. I'm Keyforge Concepts, and this is our Mass Mutation Month review of House Star Alliance. Let's start with the House Hybrid Star Alliance cards. Within Star Alliance, these cards will have the ending alien in their name, and in other houses, they can be identified by the prefix Xeno. The Star Alliance House Hybrid cards have the fight effect. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Put one into your hand and one on the bottom of your deck. It's a pretty powerful effect, allowing you to draw through your deck faster and help shape your upcoming cards. I also really like how you put one card on the bottom of your deck, meaning that you get all the benefit from effectively discarding it without having to actually discard that card. Being a fight effect, the Star Alliance hybrids will really appreciate being paired with a house that allows them to increase their survivability, so they can fight multiple times, such as Untamed or Sanctum. Definitely one of the stronger house hybrid card effects. Let's look at Access Denied. This is an upgrade with 1 Amber Pip that reads, "This creature cannot reap." The upgrades are back. This is definitely an upgrade you would most often want to play on an opposing creature. Being able to stop reaping can absolutely shut down some creatures that are reliant on their reap to generate value. As of right now, we also don't have a lot of upgrade disruption in the game, other than destroying the creature outright or bouncing it back to hand. So this card will give a lot of creatures a rough time. Next up is Blast Shielding, an upgrade with 1 Amber Pip that reads, "This creature gets +2 armor. After this creature is used, its controller may attach Blast Shielding to one of this creature's neighbors." Armor gives creatures a good amount of survivability and increases their potential to fight and trade with other creatures safely. What's amazing about this card is that you can play this on the creature you plan to fight or reap with first, and then continue to pass it along down your battle line to create some incredibly efficient trades. If a creature has 2 or even 3 copies of this card on them, then none of your creatures would actually be taking damage from any of their fights. But you're not limited just to fighting, because you can actually transfer this item on creature use. So if you know you're going to call a house next turn, you could potentially reap or otherwise use a creature on the board, and then give this item to a creature of the house you're going to be calling next, so they can receive the benefits on their turn and complete the cycle. This card has a lot of flexibility. And will reward battle line management and creative use. I really like the overall design of this card. Next, we're going to take a look at Crewman Jorg, a 3-power creature with 1 enhanced capture icon, as well as the action, if Crewman Jorg has no Star Alliance neighbors, steal 1 amber. Speaking of active battle line management, Jorg's action will reward you greatly if you can place her correctly in your line. If you have at least 1 non-Star Alliance creature on a flank, then it's not that difficult. By keeping Jorg on a flank, you only ever have to worry about one of her neighbors being a Star Alliance. Now, this will indirectly make her neighbors a target, if not Jorg herself, and 3-power isn't really anything to write home about. While not an amazing card, Crewman Jorg will reward players who can manage their battle lines well. Next up is Hadron Collision, an action with the play effect, remove a ward from a creature and deal 3 damage to it. This damage cannot be prevented by armor. Finally, we have some specific anti-warding cards. Being able to strip a ward from a creature and then damage them is fantastic, since you would usually need 2 separate instances of damage to do so. 3 damage is a solid amount and can be enough to destroy many warded threats, especially if they feel safe behind some armor. What I really like about this card is that it's still usable when there are no wards on the field. You can just treat this as a 3 damage that can't be negated by armor. It's a shame it doesn't have an Amber Pip, but I think that might make the card too strong. Another well-designed card. I really like what I'm seeing from Star Alliance so far. Next up is Observ-u-Max, an upgrade with 1 Amber Pip that reads, "This creature gains Fight Reap, capture 1 amber." This card is similar to Wild Spirit from Untamed last set. However, it also works on Fight, which makes this card a lot more consistent in general. While Wild Spirit was not a great card by any means, hopefully the added flexibility along with the numerous upgrade synergies in Star Alliance help bump this card up to a welcome amber control card for the house. Next is Scout Pete, a 4-power creature with the Play Fight Reap effect. Look at the top card of your deck. You may discard that card. He does what he says. He scouts ahead in your deck. Being able to discard your next draw if you don't like it seems okay, but it's going to help a lot in cycling through your deck and filtering your hands. That added information can also help you plan out your following turns. Nothing amazing, but a decent card overall. Next is Securi-Droid, a 4-power creature with Taunt that reads, Securi-Droid may be played as an upgrade instead of a creature with the text, this creature gains Taunt. A 4-power Taunt on its own is fairly decent, but the added flexibility to give Taunt to a beefy creature in your battle line, or to protect a creature in the middle of your battle line, or even play on a creature that synergizes with upgrades, is a solid effect. It may feel bad to miss out on an extra 4-power creature on board, so I can see myself usually playing this as a creature rather than an upgrade. Next is Subdue, an action with 1 Amber Pip with the play effect deal 1 damage to a creature and stun it. The 1 damage on this card may not seem significant, but that 1 damage essentially turns this into another anti-warding card, being able to get rid of a ward and then stun a potentially threatening creature behind it. Stuns can get annoying in Keyforge, especially if you didn't plan on calling that creature's house for a few turns. With an Amber Pip attached, this is a solid card overall. Next, we're going to take a look at Subject Kirby, a 2-power creature with the Play Fight Reap effect. You may play a non-Star Alliance creature this turn. This is the mutated version of Comm Officer Kirby, which was an amazing card and a huge threat in Star Alliance last set. While this card doesn't have the single turn combo potential that Comm Officer had, Subject Kirby will allow you to greatly accelerate your board state by getting more creatures out of your hand and into your battle line. At a reduced 2 power, this likely won't live for long, but having this ability on Play, Fight, and Reap means that Subject Kirby is a threat that needs to be answered by your opponent. Next up is Survey, an action with 1 Amber Pip with 1 enhanced draw, as well as the play effect, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, discard 1 of them. A card like Lay of the Land last set was very strong, so this is probably a more balanced version of it. However, Lay of the Land is in Mass Mutation as well, interestingly enough. You're still getting an Amber Pip, but you're not actually drawing with this card outside of the draw enhance. Being able to filter your next turn draws is nice, and hopefully you won't have to end up making a tough decision between 2 great cards. Decent card overall. Next is Teleporter Chief Tink, a 2-power creature with Elusive and the action swap Teleporter Chief Tink with another friendly creature in the battle line. You may use that other creature this turn. This reminds me a lot of the star of one of my favorite playmats, Crash Muldoon. These are both creatures that you use in order to use other creatures. The fact that Tink doesn't enter ready makes him not as strong, but as a common compared to a rare, that's fair in my eyes. Being able to use and combo your board with an out-of-house creature is great. The utility here is having Tink teleport around your battle line. This could be impactful for those playing around something like a leader card or multiple taunts, or trying to line up your blast shielding in an ideal way. However, there will be many situations where swapping around your battle line may not matter too much. Regardless, this is an interesting card that will create some interesting situations for prepared players. Next is Anthony, a 6-power creature with the play effect, capture all of your opponent's amber. It also reads, at the end of your turn, move 1 amber from Anthony to your opponent's pool. This is technically a high amber punish card, even though most likely your opponent will slowly get all their amber back. It is only 1 amber a turn that you're giving back though, which means taking someone off key will take them 6 whole turns to gain all their amber back without destroying Anthony. 6 power is substantial, however, and could be a deadly card paired with House Saurian. Regardless, this is an instant source of amber control that should be able to buy you a few turns to either catch up or maybe even win the game yourself. A strong card overall. Next is Armory Officer Nel, a 4-power creature with 1 draw enhance, as well as the ability after an upgrade enters play, draw a card. Draw enhance is nice, but the real big thing here is drawing after an upgrade enters play. We've already seen so many upgrades in Star Alliance. Chances are that Nel will be proccing very often. However, it doesn't stop there. It can also work on your opponent's upgrades as well. This really ups Nel's value, especially if you're playing against another Starlines. A great synergistic card to have in Starlines. Next, we're looking at the Away Team, a 5-power creature with the Destroyed effect. Put each upgrade on Away Team into its owner's archives. The worst thing in my experience about playing upgrade-heavy decks is having the creature they're attached to destroyed before you can even take advantage of their upgrades. Away Team is a creature that I feel safe and comfortable playing my upgrades on. The added benefit to this is that since the cards are archived, you're going to be getting to play all those Amber Pips a second time, which could be a substantial amount in many cases. And at 5 power, it's a solid creature with some natural staying power, a great synergistic card in Starlines. Next is Detention Coil, an upgrade with a 1 Amber Pip that reads, "This creature cannot fight." This is the counterpart of the first card we saw, Access Denied, I suppose. This can also shut down certain creatures that rely on fight effects or simply have high power and rely on trading to be valuable in their deck. If you were to combine this with Access Denied and make a creature that could not fight or reap, then you could completely shut down a creature and make it essentially useless. This will be a great card overall to help protect your battle line. Next is Hayden Oswin, a 2-power creature with the Reap effect. Gain 1 Amber for each upgrade on Hayden Oswin. This is a very powerful ability, especially with all the upgrade cards that we've seen. The problem will be having Hayden live long enough to actually reap, since she's only 2 power. If she does live long enough to reap, however, things could be potentially disastrous for your opponent. Also note that any robots that can be played as upgrades will also count towards Hayden's reap ability, which one again ups the potential value and synergy. And you're also getting the 1 Amber from the reap itself. At only 2 power, this is still a scary card that needs to be stopped immediately by your opponent. Next is Lieutenant Commander Trigon, a 4-power creature with the reap effect. Discard the top card of your deck. Resolve that card's bonus icons as if you had played it. In certain decks with not many enhancements, this reap effect may hurt you more than it helps. Discarding a potentially powerful action or upgrade could also hurt, even if you are still getting the icons out of it. That being said, discarding also does help cycle through your deck faster to get to the cards you need. Overall, I think a lot of times you'll be discarding creatures with no icons on them, which make this card not the greatest in my eyes. Next is Mutagenesis Researcher, a 3-power creature with 1 Amber, Capture, Damage, and Draw enhance. This card will be giving your deck a nice variety of effects. I think that by the nature of being in Starlines, this card becomes more valuable because if any of those enhancements end up on one of your upgrades, then you're going to have a few ways to be able to recur that card and get those effects played multiple times. It's a plain vanilla creature on its own, but it could give your deck some interesting synergies. Next is New Frontiers, an action with 1 Amber Pip with the play effect Choose a House. Reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. Archive each card of the chosen house and discard the others. I think the best use of this card would be to name the house you are going to call next turn. That way, not only do you go through 3 cards of your deck and get some potential archives, but you're also going to be digging even deeper at the end of your turn when it comes time to draw. With those 3 cards you discarded or archived out of the way, you're going to be able to get to cards that you would not have normally gotten to on your next turn. With that line of play in mind, this can lead to a potentially big turn for you down the road. Next is Particle Sweep, an action with 1 Amber Pip with the play effect Deal 2 damage to a creature. If it is a mutant creature, destroy it instead. This has to be one of my favorite mutant hate cards. What makes it my favorite is that it's not entirely useless against non-mutant decks, since you're still getting 2 damage and an Amber Pip out of it. Within Mass Mutation, being able to delete mutant creatures outright is going to be very powerful. And even outside of that, the 2 damage in Amber, like I just mentioned, isn't too shabby either. I think overall, this is a solid card. Next is Stealthster, a 3-power creature with Elusive that reads, Stealthster may be played as an upgrade instead of a creature with the text, this creature gains Elusive. This is the counterpart to Explorover, with this giving Elusive instead of Skirmish. Playing this as a creature doesn't seem that great. I would much rather have a 3-power Skirmish than a 3-power Elusive. Stealthster plays much better, however, into the upgrade stacking creature protection style of play. For example, a card like Hayden Oswin would much rather have Elusive to potentially live a turn rather than Skirmish. A good card that does have potential with certain strategies. Next is Ambassador Lu, a 4-power creature with the action discard a card from your hand. If it is a Dis or Shadows card, steal 1 amber. If it is a Logos or Untamed card, gain 2 amber. If this is a Sanctum or Saurian card, capture 3 amber. This is such an interesting and fun effect. All 3 of the potential options are pretty strong and very similar in terms of value to one another. Obviously, there will be situations where you may want one over the other, and that's why being able to choose which card you discard and get the effect you want is so important. If this was a discard from the top of your deck, then the randomness and the potential to fire nothing by discarding Star Alliance would greatly reduce this card's value. While your deck may be limited to what effects you can actually access, having options is always nice in Keyforge. As long as you have a non-Star Alliance card in your hand, Ambassador Lu has the flexibility to be used in many situations. Next up is Commander Dhrxgar, a 4-power creature that reads, after an upgrade is attached to Commander Dhrxgar or one of its neighbors, gain 1 amber. With all the effects running around in Star Alliance, this card is a huge threat. This means you're going to be gaining 2 amber for most of the upgrades you play during your turn. What really stands out to me is that this also works with his neighbors, so you could drop this beside another valuable creature and then be rewarded for buffing them instead. Very selfless and very Star Alliance-like. This also has counterplay against opponent upgrades that they might want to put on your creatures, since any upgrade attached to this card or its neighbors will net yourself an amber. This seems like a really fun and a really strong synergistic card. Next is Ensign El-Samra, a 3-power creature with 3 draw enhance icons, as well as the action effect, reveal a card from your hand. Resolve its bonus icons as if you had just played it. 3 draw enhancements is very substantial and will greatly increase your deck's efficiency and cycling. Its action is also potentially powerful. Being able to reveal the card means that you could also proc this ability throughout numerous turns, or play the card you just revealed right after and basically double the effective icons on it. This looks like a strong card in Mass Mutation. Next up is Exchange Officer, a 3-power creature with the Play Fight Reap effect. Use a friendly Star Alliance card. Now, Exchange Officer will actually never appear in Star Alliance. This card is exclusively found as a Maverick in another house, and will trade places, so to say, with a card from that house. This is great news because its effect would be pretty useless if it wasn't Star Alliance. Being able to fight or reap with a Star Alliance card on a non-Star Alliance turn, on play, fight, or reap, is very, very strong. Not to mention the implications for house cheating. A great card overall. Next is Hapless Cadet, a 3-power creature with Taunt, as well as the destroyed effect, your opponent loses 3 amber. Poor cat. This is obviously a very strong destroyed effect, and having it attached to a taunt makes it even better. If your opponent wants to get to your threats, passing a 3-power creature might not be that tough, but they'll be sacrificing 3 amber to do so. Overall, pretty impactful card in my eyes. Next is Hold the Line, an action card with 1 amber pip with the play effect. If there are more enemy creatures than friendly creatures, draw cards equal to the difference. This seems like a pretty strong comeback mechanic. If you were just victim of a one-sided board wipe or board clear, drawing an extra 2 or 3, maybe even up to 5 or 6 cards during your turn should greatly help you turn the tides and get back in the game. Even if you aren't necessarily behind, if you happen to run a deck with a few Star Alliance creatures and a ton of upgrades, this could still find a way to be impactful even when you're winning. A sometimes situational but potentially very powerful and game-changing card. Next is John Cargo, a 1-power creature with the Reap effect. Discard the top card of your deck and reveal your hand. Archive each card that shares a house with the discarded card. While the Reap effect seems great, I just don't see this thing living to do it. 1 power is just too weak, especially in a set running around with cards that all deal 1 damage. If this could be attached as an upgrade like the majority of other Star Alliance robots, then this would be very powerful. Unfortunately, I don't see this card being impactful often. Next is Kartanoo, a 1-power creature with the Reap effect. Use an artifact controlled by any player as if it were yours. Once again, really strong Reap effect, but 1 power is just too weak. This has the great ability to use your opponent's artifacts or even use your artifacts out of house. But again, at 1 power, you're really going to be struggling to keep this alive without some sort of upgrade or taunt support. Next is Mattermaker, an artifact with 1 Amber Pip that reads, "You may play upgrades as if they were in the active house." Very interesting and very Star Alliance. Now, unfortunately, we haven't seen many upgrades from the other houses. At most, you'll probably have only 1 or 2 per other house. Potentially strong, but this seems mostly situational and highly dependent on your other house lists. Next is Z-Force Agent 14, a 5-power creature with the fight effect gain 1 Amber for each upgrade on Z-Force Agent 14. Z-Force Agent 14 is very interesting because he will always be generated with 3 signature upgrades, which synergize greatly with his ability. You can also see them being used in his art, which is a nice touch. Logos really missed out on this card because this is a huge upgrade magnet in a house with a lot of powerful offensive and defensive tools, as well as creatures that can double as upgrades and benefit his effect. While this is a fight effect, so the amount of times you recur it may be limited, 5 power gives a solid baseline to work with. This really opens up the potential for having a truly tall-built creature in your deck. The first Z upgrade is the Z Particle Tracker, an upgrade with 1 Amber Pip that reads, "This creature gains fight, search your deck for an upgrade and put it into your hand. Shuffle your deck." Keyforge does not have many search effects, so the few that are present in the game are very powerful. Being able to find the perfect upgrade for the situation you're in is very strong and will particularly help you find the other 2 Z upgrades in this set. Keep in mind that you won't be able to pick up any of the robot upgrade hybrids, since those are still considered creatures technically that can only be played as upgrades. A strong and supportive piece for an upgrade-oriented house. The second Z upgrade is the Z-Ray Blaster, an upgrade with 1 Amber Pip that reads, "This creature gets +3 power and gains, before fight, deal 3 damage to each neighbor of the creature this creature fights." This is comparable to an upgrade like Plasma Nozzle. This is great because it allows flexibility with whichever creature you choose to fight. You could purposefully fight a weaker creature, but still deal damage and potentially destroy one of its more threatening neighbors. It's also putting out an extra 6 damage into your opponent's board, which is very substantial. After a few uses, the damage is really going to start adding up. A strong and solid offensively oriented upgrade. The final Z upgrade is the Z-Wave Emitter, an upgrade with 1 Amber Pip that reads, "At the start of your turn, ward this creature." This may be the most powerful of the Z upgrades. There is a window of opportunity for your opponent to deal with your creature. However, if they don't, then getting a free ward at each of your turns is very powerful and annoying for your opponent to deal with. If you got the ward at the end of your turn, it would be simply too powerful. So this is a good happy medium. Attaching to a card that can take advantage of upgrades like Z-Force Agent or Hayden Oswin, this can make them particularly hard for your opponent to remove and deal with. So that's all the cards from Star Alliance this set. Let's quickly review what they are going to look like in Mass Mutation. The biggest thing here is the new upgrade focus that Star Alliance has. Upgrades were a part of their identity in Worlds Collide, but they've really doubled down and made it the core focus of this set. I think this will be strong and play into their teamwork with other houses, since upgrades can benefit any creature they're on. Having Star Alliance in your deck will also make it pretty efficient with the multitude of archive, but mostly discard effects on cards. You'll be cycling through your deck and getting to key cards quicker than others. Star Alliance also has a few really great spot damage and removal cards, allowing them to deal damage and put pressure on smaller board states. And while not as prevalent as last set, Star Alliance still works well with others and has a good amount of house cheating and out-of-house play potential. In general, Star Alliance seemed to be a fairly well-rounded house, with no glaring weaknesses but not many overwhelming strengths. That concludes our review of the new Mass Mutation cards from Star Alliance. As one of my favorite houses, I'm really liking how they look this set. Do you think they'll play well? Let me know in the comment section below. Join us for our next video and our final video of the series, where we'll be reviewing the new cards from House Untamed. Thanks again, stay well, and I will see you in the next video.